Dracula, pages 21 to 32. The Count opened another door, which led into a small 8-sided room lit by a single lamp, and without a window of any sort. Passing through this, he opened another door, and motioned me to enter. It was a welcome sight, for here was a large bedroom, well lighted and warmed with another log fire. The Count set down my luggage and said, "After your long trip, I'm sure you will want to wash up and relax for a few moments. When you are ready, come have some supper." The light and warmth of the Count's welcome made all my fears melt away. I realized that I was half starved, so I quickly tidied up and returned to the other room. My supper was waiting. My host, who leaned against one side of the fireplace, made a graceful wave of his hand toward the table and said, "Please, sit and eat. I have already dined, so I will not join you." I handed him the sealed letter that my employer, Mr. Hawkins, had sent along. He opened it and read it gravely. Then, with a charming smile, he handed it to me to read. One passage pleased me very much. Mr. Hawkins had written, "I am so sorry that my health does not allow me to travel to see you myself, but I am confident Mr. Harker will do an excellent job. He is a young man full of energy and talent, and I have known him since he was a boy. You may trust him absolutely." Dinner consisted of an excellent roast chicken, some cheese and salad, and a bottle of wine. As I ate, the Count asked me many questions about my journey, and I told him everything that had happened. By this time, I had finished my supper, and I accepted my host's invitation to draw a chair up to the fire and smoke a cigar. I now had a good chance to study him, and I found him a remarkable-looking man. He had an unforgettable face, with a high, thin nose and arched nostrils. His forehead was large and dome-shaped. His eyebrows were massive, almost meeting over the nose. The mouth, so far as I could see it under the heavy mustache, was hard and rather cruel-looking, with oddly shaped white teeth. The teeth showed a little over his lips, which were much redder than is usual in an elderly man. His skin was unusually pale. I found myself looking at his hands as they rested on his knees. They were broad, with thick fingers, and his long nails were cut to a point. Once, as we talked, he leaned close to me and touched me on the arm. I could not help but shudder. A feeling of nausea had swept over me. The Count seemed to notice, and he drew back with a grim smile. Eventually, our conversation ceased. As we sat in silence, I saw the first dim streak of dawn through the window. Then, from the valley below, I heard the howling of many wolves. The Count's eyes gleamed, and he said, "Listen to them, the children of the night. What music they make!" I suppose he saw the expression on my face, for he added, "Ah, I forgot. You city people cannot understand how a hunter feels." Then he rose and added, "But you must be tired. Your bedroom is all ready. Tomorrow, sleep as late as you like. I have to be away till the afternoon. Sleep well and dream well." And with a courteous bow, he left me. May 7th. I have rested well and slept until late in the day. When I dressed, I went into the room where I had eaten and found a cold breakfast laid out, with coffee kept hot over the fire. There was a note on the table which read, "I have to be absent for a while. Do not wait for me. D." I enjoyed a hearty meal. When finished, I looked for a bell so that I could let the servants know, but I could not find one. It is odd what I do not find in the house, when it is obvious that the Count is very wealthy. The table service is of gold, and so beautifully made that it must be of immense value. The curtains and upholstery of the chairs are made of the costliest and most beautiful fabrics. Although they must be centuries old, they are in excellent condition. But still, I can't find a mirror anywhere. There is not even one in my bathroom. I had to get a small mirror from my suitcase before I could shave or brush my hair. I have not yet seen a servant or heard a sound near the castle, except the howling of wolves. Some time after I had finished my meal, I looked about for something to read. I didn't want to wander about the castle without the Count's permission, but there was absolutely nothing in the room, not a book, newspaper, or even writing paper. One door in the room was locked, but another one opened, and behind it I found a sort of library. To my delight, I found there was a number of books in English, whole shelves of them, and even English magazines and newspapers, although none of them was very recent. The books were on all subjects: history, geography, politics, political economy, botany, geology, law, but they all related to England and English life and English customs and manners. There was even a directory of London streets. While I was looking at the books, the door opened and the Count entered. He greeted me cheerfully and said he hoped that I had had a good night's rest, and then he went on. I am glad you found your way here, for I am sure there is much that will interest you. These companions, and he laid his hands on some of the books, have been good friends to me ever since I had the idea of moving to London. Through them I have come to know and love your great England. I am anxious to reach London and experience it all for myself. I only wish I spoke English better. But, Count, I said, your English is excellent. I thank you, my friend, but I have barely begun. True, I know the grammar and the words, but yet I know not how to speak them. That's not so, I said. You speak very well. He shook his head. If I were in London, everyone would recognize me as a foreigner. That is not good enough for me. Here I am a nobleman, but in a strange land, a foreigner is a nobody. I want to speak so that no one in England who hears me will think, "Ha ha, a foreigner!" I have been master too long, you see, and I will not let anyone else be master of me. And you will help me, Jonathan Harker. You are here not only to tell me about my new estate in London. You shall, I hope, stay with me a while, so that I may learn how to speak like an Englishman. And to tell me when I make error, even of the smallest, in my speaking. Of course, I said I would be glad to help, then asked if I could use the library whenever I chose. He answered, "Yes, certainly. You may go anywhere you wish in the castle, except where the doors are locked. I have my reasons for this." I said I understood, and then he went on. "We are in Transylvania, and Transylvania is not England. Our ways are not your ways, and you will find some things here strange, but from what you have told me of your trip, you have already begun to discover that." We went on talking for a long time, for it was clear that he was in the mood for conversation. Eventually, I asked him about some of the strange things that had happened the night before, especially why the coachman went to the places where he had seen the blue flames. The Count explained that it was commonly believed that on the eve of St. George's Day, when all evil spirits are supposed to be loose on earth, a blue flame is seen over any place where measure has been buried. "But now," he said at last, "tell me of London and of the house which you have purchased for me." I went into my room to get the papers from my bag. While I was there, I heard a rattling of china and silver in the next room, and as I passed through, I noticed the table had been cleared and the lamp lit. The lamps were also lit in the library, and I found the Count lying on the sofa, reading another of his guides to England. When I came in, he cleared the books and papers from the table, and together we went over all the documents. He was interested in everything and asked me 1,000 questions about the place and its surroundings. As we talked, it became clear that he knew the neighborhood of this new home much better than I did. When I mentioned this, he said, "Well, but isn't it important that I know it? When I go there, I shall be all alone, and my friend Jonathan Harker will not be by my side to correct and help me. He will be in Exeter, miles away." I described the estate known as Carfax to him in detail. Its 20 acres are surrounded by a high stone wall. Inside those walls are many trees, which make it quite gloomy in places. The house is very large and dates back to medieval times and contains an old chapel or church. There are only a few other houses nearby. One of them, a very large building, is now used as an insane asylum. When I had checked, he said, "I am glad that it is old and big. I am of an old family, and to live in a new house would kill me. And I rejoice, too, that there is an ancient chapel. Even in death, we Transylvanian nobles do not want to lie among the common people. The house sounds exactly like what I seek." He then left me again and returned after an hour to say, "Aha! Still at your books? Good, but you must not work always. Come, I am told that your supper is ready." He took my arm, and we went into the next room, where I found an excellent supper on the table. Again, the Count did not join me, saying he had eaten dinner on the road that afternoon. But he sat with me and chatted while I ate. After supper, the Count stayed on, asking questions on every imaginable subject, hour after hour, getting very late indeed. But I did not say anything, for I wanted to please my host. I was not sleepy as I had slept so late the previous day, but sitting up all night still seemed unnatural. All at once we heard the crow of a rooster. Count Dracula, jumping to his feet, said, "Why, there is the morning again. How rude of me to keep you up all night. Next time, you must make your conversation regarding my dear new country of England less interesting." And with a bow, he quietly left me. May 8th. I thought perhaps as I wrote this journal that I was going into too much detail about unimportant things, but now I am glad I have written it, for there is something so strange about this place that I feel uneasy. I wish that I had never come. It may be that staying up all night is beginning to wear me out. If there were anyone I could talk to, it would help, but there is only the Count. And the Count? I begin to think I am the only living soul within this place. I do not want to get my imagination running wild. Let me just get the facts down as clearly as I can. I didn't sleep well, and I got up after just a few hours. I had hung my little mirror by the window and was beginning to shave. Suddenly, I felt a hand on my shoulder, and I heard the Count's voice saying, "Good morning." I jumped, for I hadn't seen him at all, even though the mirror showed the room behind me. As I jumped, I nicked myself with the razor, although I didn't notice that right away. I answered the Count and looked back in the mirror to see how I could have missed him. But there was no mistake. The Count was standing right there. I could see him over my shoulder, but there was no reflection of him in the mirror. There was no sign of any man but me. That was startling enough, but at that instant that I saw that I had the cut and bled a little, and the blood was trickling over my chin. I laid down the mirror and turned to get a tissue. When the Count saw my face, his eyes blazed with a sort of devilish fury, and he suddenly made a grab at my throat. I pulled back, and his hand touched the string of beads, that which held the crucifix around my neck. In an instant, the fury was gone from his face, so quickly that I could hardly believe that it had been there. "Be careful," he said. "Be careful how you cut yourself. It is more dangerous than you think in this country." Then, grabbing the mirror, he went on, "And this is the useless piece of vanity that has done the mischief. Away with it!" And opening the window, with one wrench of his hand, he threw out the mirror, which shattered into 1,000 pieces on the stones of the courtyard below. Then he left without a word. It is very annoying, for I don't know how I am going to shave. When I went into the dining room, breakfast was prepared, but I could not find the Count anywhere, so I ate alone. It is strange that I have not yet seen him eat, or even drink. He is a very peculiar man. After breakfast, I did a little exploring in the castle. I went out on the stairs and found a room looking toward the south. The view was magnificent, and where I stood was a wonderful place to see it. The castle is on the very edge of a terrifyingly high cliff. If I dropped a stone from the window, it would fall 1,000 feet without touching anything. As far as I could see was a sea of green treetops. Here and there, silver threads show where the rivers wind between the forest. But I don't have the heart to describe the beauty, for after all I have seen the view, I explored more of the castle. There are doors everywhere, but all are locked tight. There is no exit available to me for those awful windows. In other words, the castle is a prison, and I am a prisoner.